Jules here. Hello. Do you want to ask your question or do you want me to do it? I certainly will. Okay, so Jules is a creativist at Curiosity Unlimited, a youth worker and leader of the Bristol bus boycott campaign. And the question is, the Bristol bus boycott is one of the UK's most significant moments in race relations. Building on its legacy and Labour's plans to introduce a Race Equality Act, how will your department, I think this might be for me, use the 60th anniversary of the Race Relations Act of 1965 as a creative catalyst for meaningful cultural change? I think that's a really great challenge. We obviously have the Draft Equality Bill, which amongst its provisions will introduce mandatory reporting around ethnic minority pay, which will help us, because one of the things that really strikes me about the conversation we've been having about the TV industry is that we don't even have data on ethnicity, let alone on what people are paid, and whether that's one of the challenges. This is quite personal for me, so you may or may not know, but my dad was an immigrant to this country in the 1950s from India, and he was in race equality all his life, largely because in those days, you know, if he wanted to find somewhere to live and rent a flat, if he wanted to go for a drink in the pub with his wife, it took a campaign, it took a sit-in to achieve it. And so he was one of the architects of the 76 Act, set up the Runnymede Trust and the Equal Opportunities Commission. And a few years ago, we were talking about the sort of legacy of all of that. And I think he and his generation are quite pessimistic about it. I think they feel that the progress that once seemed inevitable has begun to unravel. And I said to him, what can be done? And he said, well, you've got to understand that progress is not inevitable and that it falls to every generation to pick up the baton and to fight these battles anew. And I think, if anything, their success was part of the problem for my generation, because I, as a mixed race kid growing up in Manchester, I really started to believe that progress was inevitable. You know, one of the greatest gifts my dad's generation gave to me was that I wasn't defined by my ethnicity. And I think we have watched that progress unravel in a lot of ways over the last 15 years. So, you know, if I could say one thing about marking that historic anniversary, it's that I think we should learn from people like David, who help us look back in history so that we can build that living, breathing bridge to where we want to get to in the future. And I think an honest appraisal of how far we've come, how much there still is to do, and a national conversation around that next year would be the right way to mark it.